One just can't help but feel positive in your space. I mean, from everything that I've read and watched about you, it just you were just full of energy and love, and I think that really comes through in the album.
Oh man, that's my whole goal. Love, joy, community. Those are the things that I want to be in all of my music, whether it's happy songs, sad songs, everything in between. Love, joy, community, and togetherness. That's the key.
I think it's beautiful because it's a beautiful sentiment for where we are in the world. There's so much darkness. There's so much bad that people think have happened in the last 12 months, not just exclusive to the last year alone, but all through it, you and your music have helped guide us in so many different ways. I mean, putting out great albums, being on the Colbert Show, doing what you even called the Love Riots as well. It's all full of positivity.
Yes, those are something that I really have been glad to participate in and lead, these kind of spontaneous musical processionals. And they can happen anywhere. We used to do them before they were considered to be peaceful protests. We used to do those 10 years ago on the subways in New York, just for fun, just to express this sort of feeling of community for people in the subway. And then we started doing them all on tour around the country, around the world, taking the audience for the encore of our set. We'd take them out of the venue and march up the street, and we would sometimes even march to unsuspecting restaurants or coffee shops with hundreds of people in tow. That's that Love Riot, man. Let's go.
That's rather Andy Kaufman-esque, taking the audience out of the theater. I love that.
Yes, it's a crazy thing to think about, but I always think that music should be with the people. It should be for the people, because that's what, if you imagine hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before we started to sell music and it was a commodity, it was music in the community for everyday life, sacred music, ritual music, music to dance to, music when someone is born, music in New Orleans when someone passes away. Social music is what I call it. And that's what it was for hundreds and hundreds of years.
I was gonna get to that a little bit later, but since we're talking about it now, one thing that you said once that I loved was, how can you hate the person next to you when you're singing and dancing together? And that's what a sentiment.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah, that's what the Love Riot is all about. And it can be a tough thing to talk to somebody that you don't agree with. And it can be a tough thing to find common ground. But music, man, something about a groove, a song, or a melody, it can connect people who have 99% disagreement. And they could connect on that aspect of living and being together. And then from there, hopefully, there can be something further gained from that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be black, white, yellow, red, left, center, right. It's right. Music.
Yeah, that's it, man. It's only music. That's all I classify it as. I don't believe in genres. As you know, since y'all have played the album, which I'm so grateful for, just we don't really make music that is in a genre. It's music that is a part of a feeling and a vibration, a story. And when you hear it, it doesn't matter where you're from or how old you are or what. None of the barriers come into play.
Yeah, and I love that. And I actually had that to talk with you about as well, because, I consider our style of radio in our corner of the universe to be the non-format, right? Like, we go from your song into Rage Against the Machine, into Phoebe Bridgers, into, it's all good. And I see it a lot lately, but not just you, but there are other artists calling for the blurring of genres and format lines. And that really is a beautiful thing, because I think people are just making good music. You don't have to call it one thing or another.
It's really a marketing thing, a marketing construct that has become oppressive to the artist and the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the audience then listens to music based on this narrow perception, and the artist then begins to create music to fit into this narrow perception. And then what happens is true art becomes out of the box, or it becomes uncategorizable. And how does that really function if you're an artist or a music lover? It doesn't. You don't want that. So the truth is going to always come out, and the truth is always going to be what ends up being the norm. But we have to come around to it again. We have to come back to it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think the way that people listen to music nowadays, it gets so blurred because people like a little bit of everything. And it seems like these categories are really just for the awards. But at the same time, if Grammys are going to be so stuck in like, well, this has to be a hip hop record and this has to be an R&B record, I don't know what that does for anyone.
Well, it's really interesting because the metric then has to change, because those boxes, even when people are making music within these narrow categories, we're human beings and we evolve and we grow, and the categories become obliterated. And then they have to change the categories every few years. And there are always not enough categories to capture everyone's beautiful creation. So that's why I think that we're really in an unprecedented time, because now the music listener can create a format that exists based on their taste, and you can play music based on what you feel is the right thing to play. And I love that. I'm more power to you, more power to that notion.
Sure. Yeah. And that's why I'm so happy to be at the station where I am, because we just consider music by, is it interesting? Is it good? And should we hear it? And let's hit play.
Exactly. That's right on, you know, and that's how it should be. Yeah.
Okay, we're talking with Jon Batiste here on 90.9 The Bridge. And so I want to talk about the album, but to get there, you mentioned Louisiana. You were born there, huge family, Batiste musical dynasty. And at 6 years old, right? You start playing drums.
Man, look, I had a really cool family, still a great family. Of course, the Batiste family is like one of maybe the 10 musical dynasties that make New Orleans musical heritage what it is. You have generations of musicians. And I was born into that. You know, it was really special to come up and play drums. And I have two older cousins that play drums as well. And then we started a band together and we all couldn't play drums. So I switched to the piano. You know, we couldn't all play drums. It would be a drum circle band, but that could be cool. Yeah. But, you know, we just decided to make a band, and my older cousin, Travis, he switched to the bass. Jamal stayed on the drums. He was the oldest of us, so he got to stay, and I moved to the piano. And it's stuff like that makes me who I am, you know, just going from that to then moving to New York and being in Juilliard, which is like the other side of the spectrum. And then while I'm at Juilliard, I get a chance to play and perform with Prince and Stevie Wonder and all of these people when I'm in Wynton Marsalis, all these different kinds of musicians. So it just goes to show, you know, I've always said yes to any experience, no matter what the style, no matter what musician. And that really comes across in this album.
It does indeed. And I wanted to mention that not only that, but you bring your family into this record. You brought your marching band from high school into this record. Talk about that experience, about being able to involve the people in your circle.
I love making music that reflects life. I'm more inspired by life than I am by listening to other music, because to me, music is life. And I'm always translating experiences into melodies or songs or lyrics. And I'm experiencing a world in my mind when I'm creating. It's like a movie that I'm watching in my mind's eye. And when I make the album, I'm thinking, oh, this scene, my high school marching band would come in. And this band is legitimately, it's a legendary band of a legendary school. You know, the St. Augustine High School marching band is the Marching 100. And the Marching 100 are, you know, that school is a historically Black high school in New Orleans with many legendary alumni. And the band is such a force. They're like, they play on the college circuit and they battle college bands.
Wow. Wow.
So, you know, it's all a movie to me. The album is a movie.
You and Fleetwood Mac are now going to have two of the most important marching band records out there.
Oh, I love it. You know, man, that thing has got to come back. Marching band horn sections. Let's go.
Oh, but it's funky, you know, and it's something different. And I love that, you know, what you've made at the heart of this. Look, we've heard from a lot of people, families who have texted us and said, man, our family discovers Jon Batiste. My kids love playing this album. You've made something that connects with everybody.
That's the key for me. If it doesn't connect with everybody, and not that everyone has to like everything, but it has to be human. You know, my band is called Stay Human. And the thing about human beings is no matter what era, what age, wherever you live, we all have a heart, soul. We have the same likes, dislikes, same desires. You know, in the big grand scheme of things, is all we're more the same than we are different. So if your music taps into that, you're going to reach a lot of people and add value to a lot of people's lives. And that's what I strive to do.
So how does Stay Human go from busking on the subway to the Colbert Show?
Man, great story there. So we started playing the band. I started it in Juilliard. There's a lot of my fellow colleagues at Juilliard would go from the Lincoln Center platform down the steps from Juilliard and the Plaza down into the 1 train, and we'd ride the 1 train all the way to Harlem, and then we'd ride the A train from Harlem all the way to 14th Street, and then we'd ride the L train to Brooklyn, into Brooklyn and back, playing, and you would just be playing for people. Tuba, tambourine, you know, Joe Sale on the tambourine, Eddie Barbaz saxophone, Ibandru Humbika on the tuba. We'd be playing. And many other instrumentalists would join us. You know, sometimes it'd be 10, 12 of us. We even made a record down there, My NY. And around that time we made the record, we got on tour and we started to build this fan base, huge fan base in New York, in the Lower East Side. Then we got a couple tours, and we booked some tours over the summers, and we started touring around the world doing Love Riots. And then at the end of one of those tours, a producer from the Colbert Report calls us and is like, Stephen Colbert wants to meet you on the show, and we want you to play on the show as well. And then I get on the show, we do a Love Riot on the show, and I talk to Stephen, and we become friends, and I get invited back on this is his old show on Comedy Central. It's called the Colbert Report. So everybody who's a fan of that show knows he was in character in that show. But you know, I could tell that he was a cool guy. We met, we couldn't stay connected. Long story short, we got to be friends enough to where he called me one day and asked if I'd be interested in joining him on a new show that he got. I didn't even know that he was going to take over for Letterman at the time when we first met. And that's what happened. You know, it was just a natural progression from us meeting on the show. And the rest is history. 6 years later, over 1,000 shows later, we're here.
Indeed. And you know, it's my favorite of the late night shows. I mean, there's something about all of them, but Stephen in particular is really, it's incisive. And the conversations you have, and you've even been able to drive some talk about race. It's just a great all around show. So congrats.
Oh, thank you. I know that everybody at the show would love to hear that, because that's what we strive for. You know, we want to make the show be something that is meaningful. It's not just entertainment. It's comedy. It's a comedy show with music, and it's topical. But beyond that, we know that it helps a lot of people get through the times that we're in. And that's substantive and meaningful to us.
You've said really beautiful things about how music ties people to the higher power. And we believe that same thing, that music can heal, it can unite, it can bring people together. So in closing, if we could just talk about that and just your beautiful perspective on that.
You are not alone out there. Whoever you are, wherever you are not alone. You are in a world full of people who are dealing with struggles and pains and all the things that you are facing right now. And I just pray that you understand that even if you feel alone, you're not alone. And even if you're by yourself in this moment, you're still not alone, because there's a divine source, there's a power that is with all of us. And if we just close our eyes and connect to it and listen to music and the feelings that we feel in our heart that come up when we hear music that moves us and music that brings us closer to that's proof of it. And I'm really, really always trying to be a force that leads people to the light. So hopefully my music does that, but it could be any music. It could be music from your childhood. It could be music from the things that you listen to relax or to do all of the things that help you to meditate and breathe and pray. All those forms of ritual music or sacred music. There's all kinds of stuff that just proves that point that, you know, we're not alone, and there's a divine source that guides everything, and God will lead you to peace, and music is a bridge to that peace.
It's a beautiful place to leave it. Jon Batiste, you are a beautiful soul. We could do this all day. Bless you. Thank you for the music. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.